positive things about Costa Rica to me, it's being happy. In our country, everyone is happy. And we also have very tasty food and chocolate, and the coffee is premium. We adore our coffee and our chocolates. Our indigenous roots also teach us about loving nature and respect animals and respect all the people. So yeah, I hope you come to Costa Rica soon. Pura vida.
Gorgeous nature, beautiful women, the best coffee beans in the world, azure beaches, forests with 50 shades of green, and an extremely inexpensive vacation paradise. This is Costa Rica. Many of you have heard of it, but may not have a clear idea of what it has to offer. The country has rich coastlines and excellent beaches both on its northern borders and in the south. Although Costa Rica is known as a tourist country, in fact, up to 55% of its income is derived from agriculture. The most prominent of these are coffee, sugar, bananas, and cocoa products. In fact, Costa Rica is the largest exporter of these products in Central America. This Central American country is located between Nicaragua and Panama. If you look at the map, you can see that they are in a narrow area, and you may also be hearing for the first time about Nicaragua, which is another country in this geography, my friends. To the north of Costa Rica is the Caribbean Sea, while to the south is the Pacific Ocean. Arrivals usually land at the Juan Santa Maria International Airport in the capital city of San Jose. If you are traveling to Costa Rica from a nearby country, you can also reach Costa Rica by bus from countries such as Honduras, El Salvador, and Mexico. The tropical climate in Costa Rica makes it possible to enjoy beautiful weather all year round. The average year-round temperature in the country is around 25 degrees Celsius. If you want to visit Costa Rica when it is not raining, you should prefer the months between December and April. Spanish is the official language of the country. Like many other South American countries, Costa Rica was once ruled by the Spanish. For example, Christopher Columbus, who landed on the Caribbean coast in 1502, called it the Rich Coast because of its gold deposits. But the Spaniards were disappointed. Contrary to popular belief, they did not find large quantities of gold. On the contrary, the country they discovered turned out to have extremely poor underground resources. The indigenous people of today's country were migrants from places like Guatemala, and they lived by farming and hunting. Later, they explored the slopes of the mountains and realized that they were ideal for growing coffee. It was not until 1821 that Costa Rica gained its independence and was freed from Spanish control. This marked the end of nearly 300 years of Spanish rule. Today, Costa Rica is one of the happiest countries in the world in terms of life-indexed happiness rankings. Although Central and South American countries suffer from economic misery, Costa Rica has always managed to rank among the top 15 happiest countries in the world. The country today has an area of 51,000 square kilometers, and only 5 million people are registered as living in the country. 80% of these people are of Christian origin, the remaining 15% are a mixed Indo-European ethnic group, and the last 5% are descendants of people of African descent. Today there are only 4 tribes in Costa Rica that have preserved their identity, language, and culture. The rest live according to the demands of the modern age. In addition, gambling and one-night stands for money are mostly ignored and allowed by the government. As a result, Costa Rica attracts millions of pleasure seekers, especially from the United States and Canada. Consequently, gambling and nightclub operators have opened many establishments in the country. To go even further, some police officers in Costa Rica even allow people to drive drunk. You can see drunk people driving on the streets of Costa Rica. So if you leave a nightclub drunk, get in your car and drive away. The traffic police will consider this normal and usually will not fine you or take away your license. In addition, the country did not even have traffic signs until 2000. The country's traffic rules have been developing for the past 25 years. You might think that such freedoms require a strong military presence in the country. But Costa Rica is one of the 23 countries in the world without an army. No, there has been no military presence in the country since 1948. So, how do they ensure their external security? This is where the United States factor comes into play. The external security of Costa Rica is completely under the control of the United States. Therefore, no one can easily do anything to this country. I don't think it is necessary to explain how great a power the United States of America is throughout the world. And Costa Rica is without a doubt one of the safest and most livable countries in Latin America. Today, education in Costa Rica is completely free.
I also say we have very beautiful nature. We are also located between the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean. We can also say that we have a very good health system.
Actually, Costa Rica is rated between the best healthy systems among the world, and actually is the best one of Latam and Central America.
The country ranks first in Latin America in terms of literacy, and medicines are available free of charge in pharmacies. The country generates 98% of its electricity from renewable sources. In fact, Costa Rica has a well-developed hydroelectric system, as well as geothermal resources, windmills, and solar panels. Since the country is a natural paradise, the water flowing in the rivers is said to be completely potable and healthy. In other words, people living in this country, especially in rural areas, never pay for ready-made water and meet their water needs from nature. Also, if you go to a public restroom in a shopping mall, you will see that the urinals do not have automatic flushing. In order to conserve water, Costa Ricans have chosen not to put water systems in the urinals. If you want to go to the country and see situations like this, you can make visa-free tourist visits to Costa Rica from almost any country. In fact, middle-aged and elderly Canadians, Europeans, and Americans are starting a second life in this country for good. For example, if a mature person with a good financial situation has to choose between a cold European country and Costa Rica, they will most likely choose Costa Rica. This is because in Europe the sun does not shine most of the year. It can rain even in the summer, and people have to wear jackets. The days in Europe are short, and the weather can often get so bad that it can be chilly. The fruits and vegetables don't taste as good because of the cold climate. And in terms of social services, you have to deal with cumbersome procedures and paperwork. All of these negatives frustrate people and take up a lot of their time. Costa Rica has a year-round warm climate, sunny weather, clean blue beaches, low crime rate, and almost every kind of fruit and vegetable grows naturally in its most delicious form. Even if the world system collapsed, this country would be one of the last countries to experience famine and hunger, because in Costa Rica, no matter what you plant in the ground will not victimize you and will provide you with plenty of food. You can live on coconuts for a long time. You can also invest in the country and buy land and build your own mansion in the lush green land according to your taste. You can send your children to school for free. You can take medicine without worrying about your health insurance. In this way, Costa Rica is a more livable place than developed European countries. Nevertheless, as in any other country, you may have negative impressions. For example, when you walk through the streets of the capital, you may smell bad odors or see garbage scattered on the streets. Unfortunately, when local people can't find a toilet, they may use the street if they have to go to the bathroom. This causes bad odors there. In this sense, when you go there for the first time, you might be surprised and shocked. Especially after midnight, many people urinate on the street due to the effects of alcohol. There is also no free social housing or free transportation in the country. If you don't want to work here, the state will not give you any benefits. From this point of view, European countries like Sweden, Norway, and Switzerland have a much better understanding of the welfare state than Costa Rica, and technically, there are no poor people. The average salary in Costa Rica is around $700 a month. If you look at the people, you will see that many of them live off the fresh produce grown in the country's excellent climate. Remember that in Panama too, men over 50 sold food from their stalls and women mostly sold souvenirs to tourists. Because pensions in Central America are extremely low, between $200 and $300 a month. As a result, adults in Costa Rica are often forced to take on additional jobs when their salaries are not enough. Especially for the elderly, job opportunities are limited, and the only way to earn money is by selling things. On the bright side, the lowest acceptable minimum wage in the country is around $600 per month, making it the country with the highest minimum wage and purchasing power in Latin America. People earn higher minimum wages than not only in Latin America, but also in Europe and the Balkans. If you look at the faces of people in the country, both in the countryside and in the cities, people have a carefree expression. They seem to be happy with their means and satisfied with their lives. When you meet them face to face, almost all of them are smiling. There are also many elderly people in the countryside, and it is said that people in this country can live very comfortably until the age of 90. Their meals usually consist of foods such as zucchini, corn, beans, and of course they grow these foods naturally. Costa Ricans have a general philosophy of life, and they call it pura vida. Pura vida means to live a relaxed life, to go with the flow, not to push life too hard, to enjoy life with simple things. Because of this, people have developed a positive mindset, leaving aside tension and stress. For example, when you are driving in traffic in the countryside, even if the car in front of you is waiting a long time, no one is honking from behind, and they are waiting patiently. Nobody is in a hurry, they live life slowly, people are kind to each other and don't get angry. Costa Ricans are also much warmer and friendlier than people in more developed countries. When faced with a problem, people can work together to solve it, or they can be helpful and sincere with people they don't know. For example, someone on the street may smile and greet you out of the blue. In modern developed countries, however, people often think for themselves. One of the most important values in Costa Rica is the concept of family. People live with their extended families. The locals wake up at 5:30 a.m. and go to bed at 9 p.m. at the latest. They are very consistent in their daily routine. So people get up early and go to bed early. That's why, especially in sparsely populated areas, the nights are completely quiet and people retreat to their homes. Of course, this does not mean that there is no nightlife in the country. If you want to have fun and meet new people, not only during the day but also at night, Costa Rica will never let you down. There are thousands of people partying in the country at night, and they come from all over the world to have fun and meet people. Almost all of them are warm and outgoing, so if you are a bit of a self-confident person, you can find all the fun you want on a budget. Costa Rica, along with Colombia, is the Latin American country with the highest number of prostitutes. In addition, one of the best ways to find an attractive boyfriend in a nightclub is to know a little Latin dance. If you are a good salsa dancer, you can easily find many female or male friends.
Bueno, sí. Camina. Rico, rico, rico. Y como dice mi coro que sigue ahí. Escucha mi salsa buena, abre la ventana. Escucha. Ahora estamos gozando hasta la mañana. Salsa buena, abre la ventana. Ahora estamos gozando hasta la mañana. Melodía, melodía.
On the other hand, if you travel from the central cities to the countryside, you will see many cyclists. The use of bicycles is very common here, and people prefer to use bicycles instead of motorized vehicles. It is both sportive for them, and they save money on gas. Although their national league is not the best in the world, Costa Ricans love to play and watch soccer. There is not only a soccer field in every city, but also in almost every village. There are three basic structures in a typical Costa Rican village. The first is the church, the second is the school, and the third is the soccer field. Interestingly, in some rural areas of Costa Rica, there is no address system. For example, the house you live in there will not have a street name or door number. How do you know where you are? Here, people define their home or business address according to a reference. For example, across from the school, next to the cemetery, behind the church. Since both the country and the cities are small, it is not difficult for people to give addresses by reference. Also, if you look at Costa Rica from the top of a hill, you will notice that you will not see many high-rise concrete buildings in this country. Buildings are usually one- or two-story single-family homes. There are even those who call the country a one-story country. In other words, Costa Rica is a huge rural country of 51,000 square kilometers. Costa Rica also offers you a great privilege if you are a person who works online and earns money online. If you obtain a residency permit in Costa Rica and move to the country, you do not need to be a tax resident if you open a business bank account in the country. For example, even if you withdraw your money from Costa Rican banks, you do not have to move your tax registration to Costa Rica if it is in another country. There is almost no other country in the world that offers this privilege, because whichever country's bank you work with, they require you to be a taxpayer in that country because of the money deposited in that bank. Costa Rica does not require this. It is worth noting that 15% of Costa Rica's 5 million people are unemployed. This is a very high rate for a country, so if you are moving to Costa Rica and looking for a job, it is important to note that companies give priority to their own people. Also, rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in the center of the capital is around $700 per month. If you want to spend a little more, you can rent luxury houses with gardens on the coast for $1,500. As you know, Costa Rica is home to a world of people who are happy not with money, but with a simple lifestyle. People here find happiness in inner peace and do not depend on material possessions for their happiness. It is a special place where first-time visitors consider staying permanently and even welcomes many permanent immigrants from Canada and the United States. In a country where there is not even an army, people love to drink just as much. For them, the most important trinity of life is clean nature, family, and food and drink. In Costa Rica, people don't give a damn about the world agenda. They have an improvisational mentality with the philosophy of pura vida, no worries, letting everything go with the flow of life and just enjoying life. For example, when you walk down the street, people you don't even know may invite you into their home. It doesn't matter if you have a special power, a special pass, or if you're rich to be worthy of it. They just have to warm up to you and see you as sincere. In Costa Rica, people live simple lives in simply built cities. Almost every house, church, or school has a similar architecture and is usually low-rise. The low-rise issue is not just about lifestyle. In Costa Rica, homes and businesses are built low because it is also an earthquake zone with many active volcanoes. Volcanoes cause earthquakes in this country, and building high-rises poses great risks in terms of earthquakes. For this reason, you will not easily see tall buildings in Costa Rica. Also, being closer to the countryside, people don't even use locks on most of their houses, and they don't have to worry about a thief breaking in. Many of them just open the front door of their house and feel quite safe. The inside of their homes is a far cry from the homes of the modern world. The rooms in the house are made of boards, and you can see holes between the boards, and there is no insulation between the toilet and the living room. So, a standard house there is like any village house in the outside world. People drink a lot of coffee and eat a lot of rice, beans, and other legumes. Rice and beans in particular are the basis of their traditional national dishes. Of course, you won't find this kind of comfort in the mansion-style houses of the capital, San Jose. In urban life, people put iron railings on the balconies and doors of their homes to prevent burglary and crime. Or you can see that the windows and doors of a store are also covered with iron bars. In Costa Rica, if an ordinary citizen keeps a gun in his home, even illegally, and uses it in self-defense against a burglar, he will not be punished by the state. Of course, these are just precautions, and the country is undoubtedly one of the safest in Latin America. In 2023, for example, Costa Rica ranked 39th out of 135 countries with the highest number of crimes committed. You may not like this ranking, but you can easily see that other Latin American countries hover around the top 10. According to this table, the country has 54 crimes per 100,000 inhabitants, which is not bad at all. In Costa Rica, people with a monthly income of around $300 usually prefer to live in the countryside. Those who earn less than $100 a month go to the mountains of Costa Rica, where there is no electricity or running water. This may sound like an exaggeration, but it is true. Costa Rica today has over 5 million inhabitants, and more than 100,000 people throughout the country live in the mountains and even in the jungle without electricity or water. One of the main problems of the country is the lack of respect for nature. For example, if you live in a single-family home, there may be a lot of spiders or reptiles crawling around your house. Even the corners of houses and electrical outlets are often covered with cobwebs. If you are disgusted by these little creatures, you should forget about living in the countryside in Costa Rica and move to an apartment in the capital city of San Jose. Although driving in the capital, San Jose, is much calmer than in the Middle East and South Asia, a European traveler might find Costa Rica's traffic horrendous. Some locals in the country can drive like a race car. Even in the capital, you may encounter potholes while driving. If you are not a professional driver, it is very likely that you will have an accident in Costa Rican traffic. Even in the countryside, let alone the capital, driving can be a torture. One thing is clear about the country: the roads are of very poor quality and need a complete overhaul. Some citizens in the country say that the government in Costa Rica has received aid from developed countries to improve the country's infrastructure and repair various services, but they are not receiving any services. According to them, politicians in the country are corrupt, and politicians can use the resources allocated for the country for their own purposes. For example, they complain that in some parts of the country, road construction has been going on for more than 10 years, and the work is never finished. Also, if you go to a local restaurant in the capital and it is much more special than a corporate establishment, be sure to ask for a menu and see the prices. Some places can charge you outrageous prices after your meal. For example, a meal for 2 people can easily cost $50. Even in the United States and Europe, you can enjoy great restaurants for $50, while in a local restaurant in Costa Rica, these prices raise questions. If you want to go to Costa Rica and eat cheap, there are street vendors just like in Colombia and Mexico. If you look at the food they make, you will see that they make food that everyone consumes as normal, but they fry a lot. In the countryside, they fry almost everything a lot, and they put it in a lot of oil. So you should not expect much hygiene and healthy food when you eat street food there. Hotels in the country generally operate on a resort concept. The average room rate for a clean hotel in a green area is between $40 and $50 per night. If you want, you can enjoy a pool or hammock at the hotel, or explore a green area you have never seen before. Or you can rent bicycles in the neighborhood close to your hotel and go for a ride around your location. In this sense, the services offered in Costa Rica are reminiscent of the island of Bali in Indonesia, and you feel like you are in Bali. There is also the fact that many European and American men who go to Costa Rica after 50 start a relationship with young Costa Rican women who want to improve their situation. There are young people in Costa Rica who want a higher standard of living. The key to getting these people to leave their home countries and settle in more developed countries is to build a relationship with an adult American. That's why in Costa Rica, in the capital and in the beach areas, you can see foreign older men and young women making out with each other. I think Americans should not fall into this trap and be wary of women who are looking for money. In Costa Rica, bananas and banana-like tropical fruits are also used in cooking and are an important source of food. When people get bored with this type of food, they go to the banks of rivers and lakes and try to fish from the banks, or from boats. Costa Rica has a map that opens to the sea from both the south and the north, which is why fish consumption is very common in the country. Perhaps one of the most important reasons why people here live healthy lives well into their 80s is that they eat a lot of fish and use vegetables in a natural way. So, how can these people be happy despite the country's failures without money? The most important reason, of course, is that they are in a good position on the map and in a fertile geography. For example, no matter how poor a family is, they can say to their spouse, "Let's go to the beach and get some sea air." Or people can listen to music and dance with their friends in simple places and choose to watch a soccer game, one of the most important sources of entertainment in the country. In addition, because the climate is extremely fertile for fruits and vegetables to grow easily, people are able to reap abundant crops from whatever they plant, so there is no hunger problem in the country. Summers in the country are not unbearably hot, and winters are not freezing cold. If you live in Costa Rica, you can wear t-shirts and shorts year-round and probably won't get sick. Factors like these make living in Costa Rica truly stress-free and enjoyable. There is also a diversity of ethnic groups in the country. For example, on the Pacific side, in the southern and western parts of the country, you will find more people with light skin. In the eastern and northern parts of the country, you will see more black or darker people. As we have already mentioned, Costa Rica is a mixed society, with immigration from both Europe and Africa, as well as the indigenous peoples of Latin America. Therefore, you will not see people with a single ethnic face, but a variety of people with different skin colors and ethnic body types. For example, the country is divided into states, and the minimum wage for those living in the state of Barva is $371. A director of a good school in this state can earn a monthly salary of up to $2,000. Speaking of school, education in Costa Rica is compulsory until the 9th grade and is paid for by the state. In other words, it is free. The good thing is that no matter how remote a Costa Rican lives, the government will build a school there. It is even said that there are schools in Costa Rica with only one student. For a comfortable life in the country, you can rent very good houses for $500 a month, and with the rest of your salary, you can declare your own kingdom in Costa Rica. In other words, educated people and civil servants are in a more qualified class in this country. The people who earn the minimum and are happy with the Pura Vida philosophy are usually rural farm workers and urban cleaners. The net monthly income of a taxi driver in Costa Rica, for example, is about $1,000 US. Of course, finding a job in the country is not easy. Business owners use the economic crisis as an excuse not to create jobs for young people in the country. The country's tourism potential is also low, so young people in Costa Rica are not able to realize their materialistic dreams in this country. For example, even if an employer provides a work environment for a young person, they offer a monthly salary of around $200, which is below the minimum wage. Of course, Costa Ricans do not accept these salaries, but employers always have a second solution. Because the citizens of Nicaragua, right next door to them, will accept anything unconditionally to get those jobs. For example, a barista hired to work in a coffee shop may also have to clean the workplace and even the toilets in the shop. This man works alone in the coffee shop, making coffee and serving it to customers. In addition, he says he has to take care of the toilets. Obviously, even in the most backward countries, this kind of treatment of workers is no longer the case. But it is sad that in a place like Costa Rica, in the middle of nature and considered one of the happiest countries, these working conditions exist. The current unemployment rate in the country is 18%, and 1 in 5 people is unemployed. It must also be said that the use of weed is disproportionately condoned in this country. People roll it up like cigarettes and smoke it, and there is no serious enforcement in the country. In summary, Costa Rica is truly a country for those who love peace and quiet, are good with wildlife, especially iguanas, and want to eat naturally at a cheap price. If you earn around $1,000 a month, the unemployment problem in the country will not have a negative impact on your quality of life. Many warm people there will be eager to meet you. In this video, we have discussed both positive and sad facts about Costa Rica. If you liked the video, you can like it and subscribe to the channel for free to be informed about our new videos. See you soon!